Here comes Zimmerman, and he's done it! FC Dallas.
Diego Chara, Portland Timbers get their second goal to make sure.
Bradley Wright Phillips is free inside. Bradley Wright Phillips round the keeper. New York Red Bulls into the Eastern Conference Final.
Towards Kamara, up he goes, and he delivers.
Hey everybody, welcome into the MLSsoccer.com studios. My name is Russ Thaler. I'll be with you for the next half hour as we get you set for the second leg of the conference championships. And joining me in studio, Thomas Rongen, 1999 MLS Cup champion as head coach of DC United. And 10 years later, this man right here, Jason Kreis, took Real Salt Lake to the promised land. Jason, great to have you on the show.
Thanks very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
And Jason Kreis, of course, one of the greatest goal scorers in MLS history before he became a head coach and moved on to taking Real Salt Lake for a number of years, all the way to MLS Cup in 2009, and later becoming the very first ever head coach of NYCFC. And again, it's great to have you on the show, and we got to tap into your expertise right away, because moving into the second leg of the conference championships, you have two home teams now looking at two goal deficits on aggregate. If you're the head coach of either of these home teams today, what are you saying?
I think both teams really need to stick to what brought them success this season and what's brought them this far. And for the Red Bulls, that's to continue to look to high pressure. Can they do it more often? Can they win the ball in the opponent's half more often and create goal-scoring chances quicker? And for FC Dallas, their strength is in transition. Can they be very quick with the ball in their counterattacks and be lethal going forward? Both teams need to stick to what they do, but they need to be more effective.
Thomas, on the flip side, you have two road teams, two lower seeds that have two-goal advantages now to protect. So what is the outlook as a head coach going into that locker room?
Well, I think for Columbus early on, it's obviously making sure that you don't give up a goal. So the intensity you got to match to New York. Secondly, with Jason, possession. So they need to break Columbus, need to break their possession, which they did so well at home. And then, you know what? The boy up front, they need to utilize as well, Kamara. It's so important for him to get on track, which he will. They're thinking right now we can sneak a goal because New York has given up a goal against average at home.
And as far as the Portland Timbers are concerned?
Well, Caleb Porter's been very pragmatic. He's always found the best 11 to start. He's brought people off the bench, that have made a difference for him as well. And they don't get enough credit for their defense. They're the best road team in MLS. He's been pragmatic. He's got a block of 6 always there and allows front 3 or 4 to do the business. And I think that's important. Very interesting what he's going to do out wide, making the change with Wallace and Valeri coming back.
All right, we'll get to the lineups in a second. 4 teams, 2 games on tap, starting at 5 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Western Conference Championship Leg 2, FC Dallas and the Portland Timbers. Then at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on FS1, New York Red Bulls and Columbus Crew SC, in the East. We'll be back here with you with a live pregame show on MLSsoccer.com, a post-game show on MLSsoccer.com as soon as the second game ends tonight, approximately 10 p.m. And of course, it all leads up to MLS Cup on ESPN, December 6th. That's a week from today at 4 p.m. Eastern. And MLSsoccer.com will have you covered all week long as we lead up to MLS Cup 2015. Let's bring in some of the people that you're going to be seeing on the show as well today. Greg Lawless standing at our tactics board. He'll be bringing you starting lineups and also tactical breakdowns of some videos. And the X Factor, Jennifer Williams, joining us in the social lounge. What's happening out there, Jen?
I have an Instagram post from some Dallas fans. They are bundled up for a cold and rainy FC Dallas victory. You gotta love the confidence there. I want to just let fans know that if they want to join the conversation, we want to hear from them. Just use the hashtag MLS Cup Playoffs, and maybe you'll make the show. Russ, back to you.
All right, Jen, thank you very much. Let's get into the games, and we'll start in the East at 7:30 Eastern on FS1. It is Columbus Crew SC with a 2-0 advantage playing at the New York Red Bulls. And Let's see how this happened in the first game. And Thomas, it happened right off the opening kick.
Yeah, I don't think it was really a rehearsed play, but it was a sign of playing a long ball forward, which a lot of coaches do. Get right up the field, press, and set the tone, we call that, for your own team. Happens to be Kamara, the best header in the game, and then obviously Merrim and Finley, what they do so well out wide, providing the service, and they were very, very good against New York. 61 goals in the 18-yard box, only 3 outside for Columbus. That's huge.
So the Supporter Shield winners are on the ropes, that being the New York Red Bulls. Best team during the regular season. What do you make of what Jesse Marsch and his team has been able to do to this point in the season?
Absolutely fantastic what they've done. With Ali Curtis and Jesse, I think have come in and established a clear identity of how they want the Red Bulls to play and what they want their team to look like. They made some really key acquisitions, I think, in the offseason, and they've got a team that's really bought into how they're trying to play.
Jesse Marsch, the 2015 MLS Coach of the Year, that was announced earlier this week. But Thomas, they find themselves in a 2-0 hole going into the second leg of this conference championship. How do they climb out of it?
Well, first, their mentality, the personality, which was so great during the year. In Columbus, I look at Dex McCarthy, and you know what? They were confused. They broke, obviously, the high-tempo game of New York. And I think what New York needs to do is they need to press right away. They need to get their high tempo going for 90 minutes, but they're going to be very smart defensively too, because they know a goal against could really kill this series.
Yeah, they really looked a little bit confused to give away that goal early. They just didn't seem to have any of the solutions. And players in their team that don't typically lose the ball were losing the ball quite often, in the midfield especially. And then towards the end of the game, they just seemed to be hopeful, sending a lot of balls into the box and succeeding possession in that way. And Columbus caught them on a counter again for the second goal.
So what do they need to do differently in this game, Thomas, tactically or execution-wise, that they weren't able to do?
Not the only key to their success, but the most important, in my opinion, is Lawrence and Zizzo, that had to defend at long stretches in the first game, were never able to go forward. And that opens things up in midfield. And that's where they also struggled. They never got Dex McCarthy on the ball. They never really got Sasha Kleshnik an extra 2 chances, but was never the provider out of the position there as well. So that's important. Lawrence, Zizzo, opening up now the midfield, and now finding a playmaker, Sasha Kleshnik, who can get his front three very much so involved, be it Sam, be it over the other side, Grella.
Yeah, check out the heat maps. Remember, they're moving from left to right as the arrows go, and this is Kamar Lawrence first earlier in November during the playoffs against DC United, and then at Columbus, and there's a very big difference, Thomas.
There is a huge difference, and what it does against other teams, not only providing assists or balls in the box, which they're obviously very good at, it now puts Chani, Will Trapp, Higuain in positions where they're not very comfortable defending, and then subsequently you can play a 3 versus 2 in midfield. And now, as I said again, continue your high tempo game, get people up the field, and really make it hard on opposing teams.
All right, let's hear from the New York Red Bulls, the head coach Jesse Marsch, but first, midfielder Dax McCarty.
We're not going to change much, honestly. We know each other, they know us, we know them. It's about going on the field, being aggressive, trying to create better chances than we had in Columbus, using the energy of our crowd. We know our crowd's going to be in there pushing us. Hopefully it's hostile. We want it to be hostile, and we want them to feel a little bit of nerves too.
Certainly there won't be a sense of panic or a lack of patience, because we still know it's like scoring 2 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals. That's not out of the question for our team, especially at home.
So confidence, Jason, that his team can score a lot of goals, but how important is that patience he talked about?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said at the beginning, I think they do need to establish the tempo of the game early. They need to get on top of them, try to press in the opponent's half of the field, but also needs to be some confidence. This is an extremely good attacking team in the Red Bulls with lots of guys out there that can score goals. It takes a matter of seconds to score multiple goals in this game.
What minute does the panic button get hit?
I don't think it gets hit till about 60. I think at 60 you're starting to make some real tactical changes. You're starting to just throw numbers forward and see what you can do to try to score those goals that they need.
All right, Jesse Marsch in his first full season with the Red Bulls. Greg Berhalter in his second full season with Columbus Crew SC, and here they are on the precipice of MLS Cup. What do you make of the job he's done in Columbus?
Another coach, I think, that's done a fantastic job. Really, all 4 coaches that are left, I think, for me, have just been fantastic. And Greg has had now 2 years to put a real stamp on this team and to get it exactly the way he wants. I think it's a group group of guys that are, again, buying into how he sees the game. They build out of the back. He's got all the right pieces, and they're all buying into a collective mentality there.
Thomas, what stood out to you about the way Columbus has built this team?
Well, I mean, the most important thing is he's done it without bringing in DPs, and Higuain is one of them. So he's done it with players, as Jason said, that are willing to buy into his system. And his system is a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 with Charlie Will Trapp sitting in there, and it's been very dangerous. They can counter on you, they can possess the ball and move in different directions as well, and get some goals that way. And they've been better defensively, more physical actually in the first game, because that threw New York off, quite frankly, than we had expected. So that team is just to continue to rise and get better.
He mentioned Kamara there, and Kamara, 17 headers in the last game? That seems unusual. That's a lot, is it not?
That is. I mean, his vertical jump is 61 inches. I think it's the highest in the... Yeah, it's more than Jason Christ. It's incredible. He can run 2 square meters in 3 seconds. And we had all this information, but at the end of the day, Kai Kamara gets himself in great positions.
But who runs the possession game for Columbus, Jason?
Well, I think the 2 central midfielders there with Johnny and lost his name now, Trapp, are vitally important. But for me, it's Higuain. He's the number 10. He's very mobile. He's such an intelligent player and really good in the attacking half of the field. So those 3 players all need to have big nights again.
I think one of the reasons why Dex wasn't very good in the first game, because he had to do a lot of defensive work. Because what Higuain does well, he's not a central 10 anymore. He comes right, he comes left, he can change the point of attack. He becomes a second forward. And I felt that Dex McCarty had to, run with him a lot. And when he got the ball, not just being tired, but always under pressure. So that's an interesting matchup.
Tyson Wall got the start in central defense in the first leg because Gaston Soro was suspended on yellow card accumulations. He's available now. Would you put Soro back in the lineup?
Yes, I would. He is one player that matches up well with Wright Phillips. And I think that's obviously the guy that didn't play well in the last game because he wasn't provided the service. But I think Soro brings a physical presence, a smarter, experienced presence. Don't get me wrong, Tyson Wall did a great job in the last game. I would go back to my best 11.
What would you do, Jason?
For me, I'd stick with what works. They had a shutout last week against, as we all know, a very, very potent attack. And I would stick with the guys that did it. Leave the same back 4 out there.
All right, let's hear from Columbus Crew SC. Kalen Carr caught up with Will Trapp.
You guys seem to dominate the midfield, especially in the center. You guys were a little bit more physical than them. Do you plan on doing the same thing?
Definitely. I mean, these games are battles. It's a physical battle as well as a mental battle. Felipe, Dax, and Sasha are all very good players, and you have to be mindful of their movement and their physicality. But I think if we can continue to do what we did in the first leg, we should be fine.
Do you allow yourself to think about maybe hosting MLS Cup, or are you still just got to focus on tomorrow?
100% focus on tomorrow, but it is an exciting proposition.
Cool, man. Well, best of luck tomorrow.
Thanks, Kalen.
If you can't get enough of Kalen Carr, go on MLSsoccer.com because Kalen's got a 2-part sit-down interview with Red Bulls head coach Jesse Marsch. As we know, Jesse Marsch and the Red Bulls like that high press. Let's send it over to Greg Lawless over at the tactical board to show us how they do it and sometimes how they don't.
Thanks, Russ. So we do talk about that high press a lot. We've got a couple of examples here of New York pressing against Columbus. One from earlier in the season when they were successful, and one from last week when it didn't work out so much. Here we see an execution that worked out really well. New York very high up. They have 4 players already pressing, including these 2 on the back 4. As the ball goes back, New York continues to press. Grella pressing. Bad ball out of the back from Clark, and New York's able to pounce on that. It ends up with a goal to Bradley Wright Phillips. Now let's move over to the other one, and we can see what happened just last week. Now, only 1 player here up in the top at this situation. You can see where the line is. It's right up here, much higher up on the field for Columbus. So as this one goes around, you see how Columbus able to adjust to it and move the ball out of the back. We heard Thomas talking a little bit earlier about that possession and breaking the press. Well, that's how you do it. That perfect ball from Will Trapp, and all of a sudden you're into the attack. So much better from Columbus, not so good from New York in terms of that vaunted high press that they have.
Jason, by the video, does that look like a tactical switch from New York or more of an execution issue? I
don't think so. I think it's a little bit executional. I think there's a couple of things there. I noticed the difference between when Verón is pressing and when Grella's pressing. I think Verón was a little bit more lackadaisical, but also it's situational. It's 82nd minute. They're down 1-0. They're probably thinking to themselves, if we get back home at 1-0, we're real happy. So they're making a little bit more conservative decisions.
Well, certainly the people at Red Bull Arena won't be happy unless they get a big victory and move on to MLS Cup. Let's see what the people are talking about with Jen Williams in the social lounge. What's going on, Jen?
Thanks, Russ. We got a Instagram post from Columbus, from Frankie Hayduke, who said, "This crew's ready. I love it. this is absolutely squad goals right here. Let's move over to the Red Bulls. Their official Instagram account posted a picture of Sasha Kljestan and Sam Lloyd Sam arriving. They look relaxed, ready to go. They have quite the uphill battle. Now, I spoke with Lloyd ahead of today's action, and he had a special message for fans. He said that the entire team is so ready to get out there today, and they are going to leave everything on the field. Russ, back to you.
Thanks so very much. And Columbus Crew SC, New York Red Bulls from Red Bull Arena coming your way at 7:30 Eastern on FS1. When we get back, we're talking Western Conference, and that game is between FC Dallas and Portland Timbers next on MLSsoccer.com.
Don't wanna live as an untold story. I don't fear.
Don't miss the Audi 2015 MLS Cup playoffs. Watch the Conference Championships Leg 2 today at 5 on ESPN. Then at 7:30 on FS1.
Back here inside the MLSsoccer.com studios, Russ Thaler, joined by Thomas Rongen and Jason Kreis. Time to talk about the game that is coming up very shortly on ESPN, the 5 p.m. kickoff in the Western Conference. FC Dallas and Portland Timbers. And Portland got off to a fast start in this Western Conference Championship in Leg 1 in the Pacific Northwest. The Timbers, in front of that raucous Timbers army, got off to a quick lead, and it was set pieces and center backs, the story of this game. Liam Ridgewell putting in his first of the season. And then, what do you say, Jason? You scored a lot of goals in MLS. Anything like that?
No, that's like goal of a lifetime right there.
That's a spree. Dallas did get back into this game and scored a crucial away goal, and maybe even more importantly for Portland, it was Nat Borchers, the bearded one, giving them that 2-goal cushion once again in stoppage time. So it's a 3-1 advantage to the visitors as we head into Leg 2 of the Western Conference Championship at FC Dallas. Dallas, the top team in the Western Conference here, but they're climbing out of a hole. What was your overall thought of what they've been able to do this season with the team that they play?
I think it's an absolutely spectacular story. This is an atypical model for success in MLS. This is a coach that is making some bold and brave decisions to play young players in critical positions and now in critical matches through the playoffs, which is surprising, but he's having a lot of success with it.
Oscar Pareja has worked with these guys for a long time, but Thomas, how difficult is it for a coach to actually go through with it and put them on the field in situations like
I don't think it's that difficult, to be real honest with you. He has trust in those players. They trust him. They go way back. You know, he was the academy director for Dallas about 5 years ago. He's very familiar with the players. They can play in MLS. They've proven that, and they believe in him. And that's so important if you have players that believe in a head coach.
But Jason, they also have veteran presence at the goalkeeping position. 2 of them, in fact, and he goes with a 20-year-old in Jesse Gonzalez. How surprising is that?
This, I think, is probably the most surprising decision that he's made. I thought for sure when they entered the playoffs that he would go back with Kennedy or even Seitz. But he's stuck with this kid Gonzalez, and he's been absolutely spectacular. In the shootout, I think he was probably, easily the most important player for Dallas and them advancing past Seattle. He is starting to show a little bit of nerves now. In the last game, I thought he was definitely responsible for the third game.
Maybe finally starting to show his age. All right, what does Dallas need to do now to climb out of this hole at home, Thomas?
Well, they need to be better in their transition going forward. If they're too slow, it allows players on the opposing team, Portland, to double Castillo. His strength is either behind you in space, so if they build quickly, they'll get there. They need to get Diaz involved, who really was not a factor in the last game. So I think those are 2 key players. He might play Castillo on the right. That might be a better matchup against Villavana for Dallas, and him and Barrios will switch.
And something Dallas does have going for them is they play extremely well at home. In fact, they play better than any other team in MLS, including the playoffs, with their winning percentage almost at 78%, scoring 2.5 goals per game at home. And Jason, how much confidence does it give them that they've already beaten Portland at home this year by a wide margin?
I think it's quite a bit of confidence. I think this is a confidence team, as we said. This is a lot of young players, and sometimes what you get with young players is a little bit of naivete. No fear about the situation. They don't maybe recognize how big this situation is or what this kind of opportunity looks like. They just go out there and give you their absolute best.
All right, let's see what they're going to put out there from Oscar Pareja. We got starting lineups in for both sides. Greg Lawless joins us now with the starting lineups. Let's start with Dallas.
Thanks, Russ. Looking at Dallas lineup, one big surprise. It's Zimmerman in for Zach Lloyd. The veteran Zach Lloyd, who didn't really have a great game in the first leg, replaced by Zimmerman. Guys, that's a really surprising move, I think, ultimately, to bring Zimmerman. And I'd love to hear what you guys think really quickly.
Well, maybe not. They've given up more set-piece goals than any other team in MLS, 14. So, I mean, that's something important. On both sides of the ball, Zimmerman has proven in the Seattle series that he can score coming off the bench. So, although I like Lloyd, because Lloyd's partnership with Hedges has been there the whole season. So a bold move. I don't know if it's an injury, but certainly one that can help them defensively and maybe offensively.
And big questions for Caleb Porter and the Portland Timbers with Diego Valeri and Rodney Wallace, who were suspended in the first leg of the conference championship, both available. What was he going to do? Who was he going to put out there? Greg Lawless with the starting lineup.
Well, we'll start in the back actually with a surprise. Maybe not necessarily a surprise considering Ridgewell came out with the injury, but Paparazzo coming in the center of the defense. Ridgewell not able to go for the Timbers, so Paparazzo comes in for him. And then a very attacking front line, Valeri and Wallace both into the lineup. Nagby's still there with Audi and Asprilla on the outside. So Portland Timbers going with a very attacking lineup in this one.
All right, what does that say to you about what Caleb Porter wants to do in this game?
This surprises me. This surprises me. I would have thought that he would stick with the two holding midfielders to cover his back four and play a little bit more defensive-minded, especially knowing that you've got a 2-goal cushion and you're playing away. But hey, credit to him. This is a bold decision, and maybe they defend better higher up the field in this formation.
Thomas?
Well, I think they've looked at statistics, which we all do, and use them to a certain extent. And they feel actually that they're a team that maybe still has more of the ball than Dallas. And he's put players in there like Valeri that are very comfortable on the ball and obviously have the possession going for him. Wallace is very interesting to me. I think he's going to play on the other side, actually, because the threat of Powell going forward is always there, of Watson going forward on Dallas' side. So I think Wallace being the best defensive wide player, so to speak, is going to help them, obviously, in transition, whereas Milano is more attacking.
Yeah, and of course, Portland should be a little bit confident going into this. Even though they lost at FC Dallas earlier this year, they do have the best road record of any of these teams in the playoffs right now, including the MLS postseason. And also with Paparazzo, we talked about Paparazzo coming in for Ridgewell. They're unbeaten when Paparazzo starts. In 6 games this year, they're 5-1, only have allowed 2 goals. Now, you wouldn't think that when Paparazzo came in the first leg and Dallas almost immediately scored right in front of him, pretty much. But is it how much of an issue is it that Ridgewell has to start this game not in the starting lineup?
Well, I think it's an issue. I think it's a little bit of a weakness for Portland because Ridgewell is another guy that's a real organizer back there. But you still have Nat Borchers, who I think is probably arguably their best signing of the year. To acquire him, he's a real cerebral central defender. He's a leader back there, and he's an organizer of all the players in front of him. So I think he steps up today and does a bigger job in that department. And then Paparazzo inserts himself and hopefully plays a little better than he did in the first 30 seconds last week.
Although a little later he gets the assist on the goal for Borchers. So, although I agree. If two guys have played together for such a long time, 2 very experienced players. Paparazzo is an experienced Argentine as well, but that might hurt him actually.
All right, and also with Nagby not moving out wide, if you're going to put 2 defensive midfielders in there, Nagby would probably move to the outside. He kept him in the middle of the field. What do you think Caleb Porter is thinking about the way he's played Nagby recently and the results they've had that's gone into that decision today?
Portland, I think for me, is the prototypical team this year that has really caught fire at the exact right time. And they caught fire when they changed this formation. They played with 1 holding midfielder and they moved Nagby up, kept him in the middle of the field with Valeri. So maybe Caleb is saying to himself, I'm going to stick with what worked for me a few games back, and we're going to continue on with a very bold and brave way of playing.
Yeah, and it kind of goes to what you said even about Columbus earlier with their central defense. Stick with what works. In fact, it works for all teams, and Caleb Porter seems to be going along that as well. Here's a look at Darlington Nagby and his stats from the first leg of the conference championship. Now let's hear from the Portland Timbers, their head coach, Caleb Porter, but first, Diego Valeri.
Yes, we're ready. I think we have a good result for us, so we will try to get advantage about that. And we know that they will be flying in the first minutes, but we'll try to keep the ball and dominate the game.
Our work's not done. We still have another 90 minutes or more to play to get the job done. I'm ready for the next game. The guys are ready for the next game. So we're not celebrating anything because we know we're playing a very dynamic and explosive team that will want to throw everything at us.
So Caleb Porter knows they're going to throw everything at them. Greg, what do they have to look out for from FC Dallas?
Well, Thomas, you talked a lot about sort of getting a little bit more support also for the Dallas attack, and that means actually getting some of those outside backs forward, in particular Javon Watson, who's had some success. And what that'll help to do, as we see here, Javon Watson getting out here one-on-one, is to actually create some more situations in the middle. If Watson can beat his defender one-on-one, in this case it would be Villafana for Portland, if he can beat him one-on-one, that's going to create chances on the inside. But here we saw another chance that came from Watson. He ends up setting up Teixeira for the goal. This is about finding that space in behind the defense. And it's about playing in the midfield. We talk about Diaz, Castillo, and all those guys who play in the midfield. And that then opens up the space when the opportunity comes. The ball goes down, they swing it in, and there's the goal. So if they can get that outside back to move forward a little bit, they might have a little bit more chance to get forward in the attack.
All right, FC Dallas and Portland Timbers coming your way at 5 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And during that broadcast, we'll also reveal the official MLS Best 11 from 2015. But since Jason Kreis is here and coached in the league this year, seen all these players, we wanted to get your Best 11 from 2015. So let's start in the back with the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I started off with what I think is arguably one of the most underrated goalkeepers in the league with Luis Robles. And then we moved to the defenders. I actually picked four center backs for the defenders for me, team of the year, because I didn't think any of the outside backs were that dominant. In particular, Laurent Simon, I think, is a new player from Montreal, who for me, best defender of the year. And Nat Borchard's already touched on how important he's been for Portland. In the midfield, they have Giovinco, Kaká is an obvious. Both of those are very obvious. Sasha Kljestan and Dax McCarty. Most people think those are one of my biggest rivals this year, but a lot of respect for what they've done. And for me, Dax McCarty, probably the most underappreciated but most important player for the New York Red Bulls. And up top, it's obvious with Kai Kamara, the way that he moves, the way he scores goals, what he's able to do. He's able to do so many things and so important for Columbus. And Robbie Keane, for me, is probably the smartest striker that this league has ever seen, and arguably the best DP ever signed.
Thomas, I'm putting you on the spot. You leave anybody out? Who do you leave out?
No, he's Duke. He's from Duke. This guy's very
no Castillo. There's no Castillo on that list.
Oh, Castillo, come on. A long way to go.
All right, that's Jason Kreis's Best 11. Let's talk about the 12th man, the people. And Jen Williams has been checking out what's going on social media all day. Jen's up there with Greg at the board. What's happening, Jen?
Thanks, Russ. We got a great one from Ellen. So, coming off of Thanksgiving, we are ready for Christmas. She just got done decorating her tree, and how fitting. You don't need a star when you have a timber.
Come on.
Hey, everyone's in the spirit. Everyone's in the spirit. Who needs a star when you have a scarf? And her wish list is short. She just wants a cup win. And then I saved the best one for last. I'm looking for the assist from Greg.
I'm trying to get to this. If I can, there it is. There we go.
Look, check out this meme. Some choice words for the Timbers. But Sarah says, today you pay in our house, Dallas, till I die. You gotta love that. Almost time. #Red for Glory. Perfect. #perfect. And I love this. Turn up for the Red. Haven't seen that one. You got to love the 12th man.
Yeah, there it is. It is almost time. In fact, it's time for predictions. So who's going to win these second legs? Who's going to move on to MLS Cup? Thomas, start with you.
I won't give a score, but Columbus moves on.
Columbus moves on, and how about in the West?
On the West, it's Portland.
Okay, so you got a Columbus-Portland MLS Cup.
Two lower seeds, baby.
In Columbus, Ohio. Jason Kreis, your prediction.
I actually have both home teams winning the games, but I agree with Thomas and his predictions overall in the series. I have Columbus against Portland in the final.
Okay, so you have Columbus-Portland in the final as well, the lower seeds. Greg, what do you think?
Oh, come on. I have to go with the Red Bulls in this, not just to win the game.
Why?
What?
Why do you
Because they've been the best team this whole season long. I've been watching them. I think they have it. And everyone's sort of writing them off just because they're down 2 goals. It's not like they can't score goals in bunches if they need to. I'm predicting the Red Bulls will get the victory, but it's going to be in extra time and maybe penalties.
Wow.
But they're going to go through, and they're going to host the Cup, and they're going to host Portland. I originally had Dallas, but I think that you guys are right. The Timbers, they're just too good, and I think they got a little bit of, they're so confident, they got a great lead up at home, and I think they're going to pull it out.
Do you have a feeling as to what's going to happen in the second leg in Dallas?
In Dallas, I think that it will actually probably, I'm thinking 1-1, actually. So 1-1, that sends Portland through.
All right. Here is the look at the lineup for today. What's going on in Major League Soccer? Leg 2 of the Conference Championships beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. In the Western Conference, it's FC Dallas and Portland Timbers at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on FS1. You have New York Red Bulls and Columbus Crew SC. Remember, FC Dallas trails 3-1, and the New York Red Bulls trail 2-0. Live tonight, approximately 10 p.m. after the second game is over, we are here with the post-game show on MLSsoccer.com. And again, it all leads up to MLS Cup a week from today, 4 p.m. Eastern, December 6th, live on ESPN. Thanks so much for joining us today for the pregame show. Enjoy the matches this afternoon. We'll see you when it's all over. For Greg Lawless, Jennifer Williams, Jason Kreis, and Thomas Rongen, I'm Russ Thaler. We'll see you guys after the games later tonight. Enjoy.